So the big news out of the NFL yesterday was, of course, shortly after we went off the air, the Buffalo Bills fire head coach Sean McDermott after 9 seasons, a 500 record in the playoffs, and a 98-50 record overall. He gone following the devastating loss that the Bills suffered at Denver over the weekend. And I guess I shouldn't be surprised at this point. I just thought, hey, if you win a playoff game, maybe that'll buy you a little bit of time. But apparently time had run out on Sean McDermott, and the Buffalo Bills now become the top job available with Josh Allen as the quarterback there. So, problem.
Go ahead, Q.
I'm having some internet issues right now.
Okay, I'll take it. Listen, I felt as though there were 3 coaches that were on the hot seat for this end of season run. It was Baltimore, it was Pittsburgh, and it was the Buffalo Bills. And I felt as though, looking at where this Ravens team was, it was based on hitting maybe possibly a ceiling with your star quarterback. I thought the same thing about the Buffalo Bills with McDermott and with Josh Allen. Did you hit your ceiling as a coach with this player? Or has this player, and this is the hard one to get a hold of, if you ask me, has the player potentially hit their ceiling? And so to me, I wasn't surprised by it. Again, we brought it up yesterday. We discussed it, and I know Pete thought he'd get another year, and potentially that made sense to give McDermott another year. I mean, they did have a little bit of success, but right. I just don't think that this team is getting further than what they have. And I don't know if it's because of McDermott or if it's because of anything else. I don't know. I mean, I know they were a field goal away from this not even being a conversation, but it did happen.
I realized, the conversation going into the game, I thought it was a bit odd. I mean, Sean McDermott has missed the playoffs once in his coaching career there. I actually, when I was looking at the Bills this season, if you're going to be critical, I think you're critical of the defense because it wasn't up to, I think, what their standard has been in past years. And they've been a double-digit win team for basically almost the entirety of McDermott's tenure. And maybe you just attach that to, what Josh Allen's been as a quarterback. But this defense, if that's what your background is, and that's how you got the job initially, isn't able to maintain a high level, I look and say that's the first thing that you kind of starting to be critical of Sean McDermott and what they're doing, because this defense wasn't good enough this year. And I understand there were some injuries that played, a factor, and we can talk about controversial calls. I think anyone who sits there and tells you definitively, like, oh, that should have been an interception. I mean, I looked at it in real time and thought, oh, that's interesting. Like, I think that really could have gone both ways. If the officials on the field had called that a catch, that Cooks had control, had possession, it was simultaneous, if you want to call it that, and then was down by contact, like, I think you probably could have made that case, or it would have been hard to overturn. It was one of those play calls that was tough to officiate in the moment, all that. And who knows how that changes the trajectory of the game. But Buffalo also had their moments. I mean, if you're Josh Allen, you are losing sleep right now over the errant throw to Dawson Knox that would have been probably for a touchdown. He catches that ball, he's inside the 10, he probably runs into the end zone, game's over. So there were plays to be had. I think the criticism of some of that with Josh Allen is accurate. Like, he didn't play well enough to win. Bo Nix was the better quarterback, in particular throwing down the field. That was something that was rather obvious, at least in that game. They could just not take the top off the Broncos defense. But I also think when you're looking at why you make a move like this, you're saying we feel like we've capped out with where this coach is at. And I think that's basically been their history now. is in a year where they didn't have to worry about Cincinnati, who they lost to back in 2022. They didn't have to worry about Kansas City, who they've lost the last 2 years to in the playoffs, or 3 of the last 4 years. They didn't have any of those hurdles, and they still couldn't get it done. So clearly they feel like there's a window now because Josh Allen's our quarterback that we're trying to win a Super Bowl, and we need to find the right guy to get this team over the hump to do so. What I find most interesting, though, is the one thing this team does not have is a number one wide receiver. And Brandon Beane, who came with Sean McDermott there, not only does he not get clipped as well, I think he got promoted.
Yeah.
And so you look at that decision and it's like, it makes sense. And I always try to explain to people, and this is like this in every corporation. You got people who come in together, who work together, and then they will try to do their best to save themselves and point the blame elsewhere when adversity strikes. And it feels a little bit like maybe that was the case here, only because I don't know how those guys both basically who had worked in Carolina together and then they come to Buffalo together, why you wouldn't want to, if you're going to reset. And say we need to find a head coach and general manager who can work together, because that was what led you to this point. But now, as you want to reset with the quarterback that you have, you don't want to find someone else to kind of handle it, because there is definitely some holes in the roster and with some of the decisions they've made over the last few years.
They've had a lot of devastating losses. Obviously, the overtime game at Kansas City, the missed field goal. Like, there's been some devastating playoff losses that have taken place with Josh Allen and Sean McDermott. The way they acted after this one, though, leads me to believe that they all kind of, maybe without saying it, recognize there's going to be some changes. Because Sean McDermott afterwards, talking, I'm standing up for Buffalo. Like, I'm standing up for, and then calling the reporter from the team plane to talk about the missed call, them ruling it an interception in overtime and all of that came along with it. Josh Allen's emotion. Dawkins was emotional afterwards. It felt like, I wonder if whether there was a conversation that McDermott had with either the owner, whether it was a conversation, but it felt like they all recognized things are about to change, and that's what led to the emotion. And I just wonder,
couldn't it just been them losing? Because to me,
it's never sounded like that. And
the stakes were so high going into that game for Buffalo.
But the stakes have been high in a lot of playoff games. The AFC Championship game, they didn't act like that. They didn't handle that.
How long ago was that?
A couple years.
Exactly. We're a couple years removed from that.
But you don't think that this one seemed different? And if we're being honest, it's not like you lost to a team you should have beat. You lost to the number one seed in the AFC.
I think there was a difference because they're at a point of where it's a crossroads. Like, do you continue doing what you're doing, but you're seemingly getting the same results? And you're looking around the league and you're seeing, again, you see Harbaugh being let go. You're seeing Mike Tomlin stepping away. Like, you're seeing these coaching vacancies and these things take place, and you got to believe as a player, you feel the pulse, you feel the energy of how things are going in the building, how the ownership handles and acts towards things. You feel it. You see it. That's not a military secret. As a player in the locker room, you're there. So to me, I think they knew how high the stakes were, and they needed to do more, and they didn't. And yes, it's different than 2 years ago, because 2 years removed, it's like, okay, what are we going to do this year? Is it going to be the same old departure, or are we going to go further? Are we going to do better? And I felt strongly about the fact that Buffalo was one of those teams that needed to do better, or there was going to be something that happened. There you go. What happened?
I think the question you brought up, though, about has Josh Allen hit his ceiling? I don't think he has. I don't think Lamar Jackson has. Guys who are MVP winners without Super Bowls. It to me, this demonstrates a couple of things. It's so damn hard to win, and to win in the playoffs and to win a Super Bowl. And it's why if you're Bo Nix right now, you got to be sick, man. Like, this has to be the most devastating injury you've had because he's played phenomenal. I don't think he's gotten his due for what he's done since he's been in the league as a rookie. Everyone kind of like overshadows it, doesn't highlight it enough. But then for that moment to be playing banged up, the throws he made in that game, how tough he displayed, everything he displayed, and now to be out 2 games, a conference championship and a potential Super Bowl, like that to me would kill me. But it also demonstrates the fact that it takes so much more than just, a franchise generational talent at quarterback. And that's talking about both Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. It is a true team sport. And I think if we're being honest with ourselves, I don't know if you looked at Buffalo's team and said, like, yeah, they've got the weapons they need on the outside. I mean, James Cook, he's a good running back. Like, they can hang their hat on that. But outside of that, like, who scares you at wide receiver for them?
I think Shakir is pretty good.
It's no disrespect to them, but I think we're just being honest with ourselves.
I think Shakir's pretty good. I mean,
as a slot, okay, like
he's pretty good.
Like that's not a number one. That's not a guy that like when you need him to, find a way of beating double coverage or get open or make that catch.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree.
It's just the reality of it.
Their number one is Kincaid. Like that's his go-to guy.
Well, you'd say Kincaid or you might a tight end, which is again even then, that's not a wide receiver.
It's not a wide receiver.
There's ways that you're going to be able to limit those guys, right? Like it's not the same. And so I kind of go back to if you looked at even Lamar this season and however you want to look at the firing of John Harbaugh, defensively that the team didn't play up to its standard of what it's been. And I'm not saying that these quarterbacks don't deserve criticism or blame for their play, but it's so damn hard, man. It takes more than just having a guy who's a generational talent. Like you got to have it all come together, and it makes you. It makes you look back on like what the Patriots were able to do with Tom Brady, and as good as Brady is, but all the pieces, everyone in unison consistently for so long, over such a long period of time, what the Chiefs have been able to accomplish. Like it makes you really look back and say, damn, man, like what they were able to do was so difficult. And it's really hard to explain to people until you have guys like Josh Allen who have such an incredible career so far, and yet like they can't sniff it. Joe Burrow's trying to get back to it. Lamar Jackson, they haven't been able to sniff it yet. It's crazy.
Do you think Kevin Stefanski saw the news and was like, son of a bitch. Why'd I take the Elijah?
I don't think it's beyond the realm of possibility that, listen,
Is
I
that
don't.
contract signed?
Uh-oh.
Just saying.
I mean, if
is the ink dry? If not, I mean, you might want to get out of it.
I'll say I don't know that they've hit their ceilings, just to address that. But being successful, that you could have hit your ceiling and still have great success. I mean, they're that good. But is that ceiling a ceiling where their great success doesn't equate to them winning a Super Bowl?
I mean, Marino never won a Super Bowl.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. Neither did Jim Kelly, and there's a host, Warren Moon. There are a host of quarterbacks that were tremendous Hall of Fame quarterbacks that weren't able to cross that threshold.
God, I love Warren Moon.
I mean, at least Dan Marino made it to a Super Bowl. I mean, it was his rookie year, but I mean, at least they made it to a Super Bowl.